I'm Dave, and this is my cage. Welcome to Dave in the Cage. Here's a issue that I want to go over, and so in this episode of Dave in the Cage, we're going to talk about bushings again. Matter of fact, I'm going to get a little more specific on them, but bushings, a relatively small part, relatively inexpensive, that can wreak havoc on your life, and it can get falsely blamed for being the issue when it's not the issue. 5R110W. It is a talked about issue. You build the tranny, you put it in the car, you fire it up, dead. Scenario 2. You get it, you fire it up, you back off the rack, you're pulling out of the parking lot, dead. You drag it back in, push it in, tow it in, whatever you got to do. You get it, you pull it out. And you find this. Notice the gears do not come off the plate. No, I didn't super glue them. It came back like this. Again, some things I want to point out about this. The center went out. It's the converter. The center went out. It's the bushing. And it split and it broke. Well, neither one of them would necessarily cause it to weld itself to the plate. On this particular one, right here in this area, is a little tracer mark. They're on seminars have talked about it. There's been bulletins from ATSG, ATRA about it. This leads me to a ground issue. Again, why didn't it do it before? Because it was untouched. Now you have separated the tranny from the engine. You have moved wires. You have disrupted the circuit it has. Again, some guys like to paint the case. Got to clean the bell housing off. Got to buff the engine off. You got to make all new mating surfaces. And again, your grounds. This truck's got 100, 200,000 miles possibly. Been through weather and everything. Again, tag you're it. You touched it. Clean the ground. Save yourself some grief. Another issue with this is the 5R110 is a thirsty tranny. So dumping 4 quarts in the pan, firing it up, running around the front, dumping more, you've killed it. I have literally put 8 quarts in the pan. I have fired it up, let it run about 4 or 5 seconds, and believe it or not, check your stick. There's nothing on there. It has sucked it up that fast. Turn it back off, dump some more fluid in, whatever the acquired amount. These things will hold quite a bit. Then fire it up and do your final top off. Flood this thing. One more issue that can be, and anybody that's been around long enough to do A4LDs, you're absolutely aware of this. When the OE makes this pump, they put an unfinished bushing in, meaning it's real thick walled. Then they go in and line bore it to dead center of what they want. And that's great. If the bushing's good, don't change it, put it back in. If you have to change the bushing, one thing you can check, and it'll lean you that way, is when you push this bushing out, if it's 64, 65 on this side, normal bushing, and it's 59 here, that's been line bored, and that pump is off center. And in other words, this hole is not center of the pump. You put a new bushing in, you just took out a line board bushing, and you moved the center line. I don't care what you do. Fire it up, boom, done, gone. The problems that you can't track to a ground or a wrong filling procedure has got to be that pump bushing shifted. I'm now hearing on some of the tech sites and forums and stuff that the only way to fix this, if you have to change the bushing, is a brand new pump. They're kind of right. So the remans are starting to look at putting in a bushing, kind of like the old A4LD bell housing thing, oversized and line bore it to get you in the center again. Again, let's go one more step further. When you align these things, These were the old handy dandy tools we used. You bolt it together, you open it up and you put it on top, and it centers this to this. Good idea? Not bad idea, but here's the problem with that. If that bushing is off, you've just made it off. Now there's some other tools out there, again, taken back to Ford. There are alignment tools like this that literally come through the pump bushing and align it to the stator shaft. Now this stator shaft, being the center, is centered into the bushing. May be the best way to go about doing this on a 5R110, because now we know that it is a troublesome area. Another thing that's kind of helping, you remember 700s? Bushing spun out all the time. They drilled them, they staked them, they did this, they did that. You name what they done. Then they got up at the 4L60Es, and they went to a coated bushing, a Teflon coated bushing. Problem seemed to stop. Now, what that does is, you can't line bore Teflon. So if they're using the Teflon bushing, that center hole is centered. So what does that mean for the aftermarket? Good old Dura-Bond has created a whole line of coated pump bushings for almost every unit. Now, again, if the pump's all off and that, I don't care what you put in, it's going to fail. But if you're aligning it properly and you're doing everything, these are great wear resistant. So for the initial startup, where it's trying to get oil up in there, these are the great thing. They're great wear, high under load, they take some better stress. So again, thanks to people like good old Dura-Bond that's trying to help the war effort as much as possible. Would I put this in every unit? I'm not 100% sure I would. But would I put it in every heavy-duty truck, anything with a trailer hitch, anything that's getting a tuner? You bet your bottom dollar is, because you're putting all that money and all that stuff in, and you're going back with a regular bushing when you can upgrade. Good luck on your 5R110s. I hope what I kind of told you will help some, and if you use them all, get the nice tools. Think about your line bore. Check your bushing after you press it out, and press is a good word. Chisel and hammering bushings, old school, not the way to go. Get a nice press. You'll be needing it on other tranny issues anyway, and you'll find out how much less trouble you have. But if you press the bushing out, mic it. Go around, and if it's real thick on one side, thinner on the other by 2-3 thousandths, that's been line bored, you now know you're going to have issues possibly right off the bat, so you have to take precautions. Thank you. Have a great day. Been a couple times been asked, why do I take the time to do these service announcements or little bulletins? Two reasons. One is, sometimes in the heat of battle in the shop and while you're selling, you can get past yourself. You can overthink things. I like to bring it back to a simpler world, and it makes me feel super.